Welcome in to the Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast. Thomas Miller, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, I am so excited about this, what we're going to talk about today. One of my two, I would say, favorite places in the world to tune in and just get downloads and be inspired. One is on the hiking trail. The other is in the audiobook booth, or the podcast booth, where I am now. I have gained more from narrating Fred's audiobooks than anything anywhere, and it's literally from sitting in here and merging with that material, trying to deliver it not as him, but representing him. But this is how thick we are. And I'm releasing this parallel to or along the line of our Sunday spiritual series. But boy, this is just a regular, good old Subconscious Mind Mastery podcast. Because if this one sinks in, it will change so much for you. And get ready, because I'm about to bleed all over myself. I'm telling a story of where I just literally didn't see something, and then a light bulb came on. As this is being recorded in, August, September 2023, I am re-narrating the audiobook Parallel Universes of Self. Why? Has anything changed? No, nothing has changed. The why is because I can do it better. So I launched in, and right off the bat, kind of the mantra theme of Parallel Universes of Self that is an undercurrent theme that Fred extends through is, you see the world not as it is, but as you are. And I know some of you were probably finishing that sentence along with me. You've heard him say it, teach it, you've read it, or listened to it in the book. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. Where I am in the book now, I think I've probably read that line at least a half a dozen times. So that's acknowledging the sentence itself. It's figuring out what's the best inflection in the context of what else is being written, etc., and then seeing it 6 times. Well, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. And I'm telling you, if this clicks, it will take you into the ultimate, deepest journey into your soul. So a lot of you have heard me talk either here or on Fun Astrology about the trading in the markets that I've been doing. There's a reason I've been doing it, and I'm not going to go into the long elaboration of it, but it's therapy for me. Not in the Zen therapy of relaxing and easy and smooths me out. Oh no, it's the couch therapy. See, I realize that in my astrological journey, this is where I weave astrology into what I've done to change my life, is it shows you where your hangups are. And one of them is money for me. And it goes into the past, and it involves ancestral lines and all kinds of things. So I've been able to construct the what. The therapy is exactly what Fred was talking about, but I wasn't getting it. And I wouldn't keep doing this if I just all the time keep muscle testing, intuitive awareness, my little combination package that I do, and it always comes back and says, keep going. Just so you know, what I'm doing is I'm trading S&P futures and NASDAQ futures in a very small amount. And keep in mind, I grew up around this. I've studied it for years, and still statistically, about 90-something% of the people who try to trade fail. So this is not in any kind of way a recommendation or a suggestion to follow this path. This is my little journey that I've been led into, and specifically to learn these lessons. But it's, I keep going back to this relationship parallel, probably because that's my other issue, but it's also something that is so prominent, and I'm hearing it so much now. It's so difficult to find good guys. It's so difficult to find good women. And then you look around and you see happy couples that have been together for a long time, or these great relationships, and you look at the market and you think, gosh, all you have to do is buy low and sell high. Should life be this difficult? And then it just clicked. I'm not seeing the chart the way it is. I'm seeing the chart the way I am. Encapsulated in that trade is fear, lack of trust, past life issues involving money, current life issues of dealing with money. It's just the whole thing is all bundled in that one. When you hit the button, there it is. It's all filleted out to deal with now. So I realized in reading those words again just this week, you don't see life, you don't see the chart, you don't see fill in your own X. Maybe it's relationship, maybe it's job, maybe it's parenting, your child, your children. Put your own fill in the blank there. You don't see blank the way it is. You see blank the way you are. Just let that soak in. How many parents try to model and raise their children the way they were raised, or counter the way they were raised? I love that verse in the Proverbs in the Bible. Train up a child in the way they should go, not the way you went, or not the way everything your parents did wrong. Train up a child in the way their unique snowflake brought into this world to experience their own soul's path, the way they should go. And when they're old, they will not forget it. In fact, that's a pretty good parallel to the trade, because when they're born, there's the initiation of the trade. Then the market makers take a hold of that trade and they're smelling blood. Well, it's the same way. The world itself tosses, turns, changes, surprises, etc. Us and our kids. We're talking about kids analogy here. And all of a sudden, by their teenage years, they're completely confused. Then they turn against what they once believed, or they do it when they're 50, like I did. Might wait a while. But life is happening, and it's confusing, and it's frustrating. We don't have our path. And in reality, we're not even conscious anymore. We've lost the rope somewhere back. Now it's survival mode. And seriously, then you sit down at 50 or 55 or 60 and you say, wow, where did it go? So come back into this statement. We don't see blank the way it is. We see blank the way we are. And here's another piece of this that I've seen a couple of times here lately, is that often we weave a protective layer around that perspective, the as we are perspective, so that we can protect it. So that we don't have to do the subconscious work that we talk about in this podcast. We don't have to pull the lid off of Pandora's box. In other words, we know there are challenges, but we've developed some kind of layer of functionality, at least survival. So if we open the lid, then all of a sudden there's all this stuff that we're going to have to do, and we know it, so we cover it. See why I'm staying with the trading? It makes me face this stuff. Be thinking about what's your blank. How would you fill this in? We see money. We see relationship. We see kids, not the way they are. I see it or them the way I am. So let's first of all give ourselves a little bit of self-love. Hey man, it's tough out there and we've done the best we can. It's like peeling an onion, and here we are facing this new truth, looking at it hopefully with some awakened eyes, the aha moment, and to realize that in that situation, in life, we have this opportunity to always be peeling the layers, peeling the onion, right? So I had to stop and think about, what does it mean that I'm seeing the chart the way I am? So I've been asking, what's the lesson behind this? The market is a mirror, and generally it comes back to fear. And I think lack of confidence. Not that I didn't know which way, because every time when I close that trade, just count maybe 2 minutes, it's gone the way that I was anticipating it to go, and it would have been profitable. So you can add timing to the mix. You could put panic in there, acting too quickly, impulsive. Hello, Mr. Mars and Sun on top of each other in my natal chart. So you can see how I am seeing the chart the way I am. In other words, I'm most of the time right. My stuff, I believe, is what's keeping these trades from being positive. And how many of you could say that about a relationship? So, for example, you get into a relationship and it's going well and everything is looking good, and then all of a sudden things start to happen. You start to pull back into your hole. Your partner pushes away. Now there's friction and tension. Then all of a sudden you decide that it's better to just go at it alone, so the relationship is over. Something like that, right? But that's a process that goes through, and then you're sitting there at 30, in your 30s and your 40s, and you're wondering, why am I single? Because you're in the relationship as you are. It might be a great relationship, not as it is. Hey, you chose well, but that bag of stuff got in the way. See, these mirrors beautifully show up in our life to teach us these lessons. It's not about the trading. It's not about the relationship. It's about the journey. It's about the lessons. Ooh, I know this is heavy, but let that line sink in. You know what else that does? That takes judgment out of the picture, doesn't it? In other words, the thing that we've said, fill in the blank, just is. When we started the Sunday series, we read a couple of chapters from the Tao Te Ching. We're going to get back to that. That was good, and I enjoyed that. But the Tao Te Ching's message is that very thing. Observe it in nothingness. It just is. Now we get into the subconscious piece, don't we? Yeah, because now it's like, okay, then we are just looking at something, fill in your blank, right? You've got your blank in mind, whatever it is. Mine is money, so let's just keep going down that line. So I have money in mind, and I just observe it. Can I look at the thing from a neutral perspective? Yeah, I've trained myself. I do that quite often. But there's the subconscious piece, isn't there? Yes, it's under the surface, and boy, is it strong. So even though you're sitting there looking at it like you think you're from this neutral vantage point, really you have this knapsack over your shoulder, and it's right there, and it still is driving the show. But we either A, are just completely oblivious to it, or B, we've masked it to the point that it's not a reality anymore. Oh boy, and here's another little rabbit hole I'm going to go down real quick just to throw this in here. I've been observing it a lot, so it's been in the space, is that one of the areas that we use to mask is spirituality. And this is why we did those 4 weeks to set aside and say, be sure to examine your own spiritual practice to make sure that it's not a mask. I've seen it. Oh, I've seen it. And it's a very effective mask, and it is a hard one to bring to the surface. You have to be willing to do it yourself. Am I hiding inside my spirituality? And one of the ways that you can tell is if you bring, yes, even Source or God or the practice excessively into everything as a crutch. I saw this so much in the church. And please don't get me wrong here. This is a whole podcast in and of itself, and I could make a very compelling case for this. We're not going to do it today, but just to say that that is one of these points to watch for is if there's too much wrapped up in the spiritual practice that you lose sight of that you have been given these amazing co-creating abilities. Fred did a video here recently on his YouTube channel, Frederick Dodson YouTube channel, or you can search Reality Creation. It gets you there too. And this is dated, so this is end of August 2023 is when this video was released. But it was about 10 minutes long on how he communicates with divine source, with God, with his creator, with his all that is, highest power. And he went through various levels of this connection and how he interacts with Source. And one of the points, about in the middle, I think, as I remember, is that he said, I don't go begging to God for answers and questions and, I need this or I need that, give me this, give me that. Because he said, I am a conscious creator, so I figure it's my responsibility to create my own reality. But sometimes I like to check in. That's good stuff. It's not a crutch. It's a source. It's a co-creating partnership, but it's mostly our responsibility, at least the earth part down here. We bring source in for the up there part. But see, either, I guess you'd call it the end of the line or the next layer of the onion came for me this week in the booth when finally I had to face that line and step away from the book and own the lesson. You're not seeing this the way it is. I'm like, oh, that's it. More inner work to do. The market is just a reflection. So are the relationships. So is the parenting. So is the boss. They're all just mirrors. So let's put a meditation with this. I'm going to play some music again from Fred and just let it go again, because this is, to me, journal work kind of stuff. So first of all, figure out what's in that blank for you. And it might just be life in general, especially right now. You might be thinking, why am I so stuck? Why is it that it seems like nothing is working? And it hasn't for a while. Fill in the blank. Maybe it's money, job, relationship, family, kids, whatever it is. And as an offset, I always like to think about, what do I do well? Don't just dwell on the fill in the blank of what's not working. Think about, there's something in your life that you do brilliantly or you do proficiently. And even if that's your job and you may not really enjoy your job, but you do it really well, think about that on the positive side. At least have something there that's a positive. In other words, when you say, I don't see that blank the way it is, I see it the way I am, and I am pretty darn good in that area. That one flows. That one I've become pretty good at. But this other blank, now that one still needs some work. That's the one we're focusing on. And then apply the broad statement to the specific issue. I don't see this. I don't see life the way it is. I see it the way I am. It's almost like the first of the 12 steps. It's like, until you realize that this is about me. See, I had figured this out with the chart. I knew that it was me, not it. But I've masked it so well, like we just talked about, that I was fooling my own self. So this is where taking a journal and being with this, letting things bubble up. So think about, how do you see that issue? When he says you don't see life the way it is, you see it the way you are, define that. What's inside how you see it? That's where all these sub-realities come up. I see it through fear. I see it through abandonment. I see it through anger. Or I see the opposite. I see it through being the doormat. Could be either side, the aggressor or the doormat. Or I see it as it's easier not to see it. Sweep it under. And if that's the reality, just put it down. It's a starting place. And I know we're going to leave this a little bit incomplete, because this is the capturing and understanding piece, the turning it around piece. Now that's where we go digging into our subconscious programming. And maybe it needs some external reality, like what I'm doing, to at least give you the platform to face it. And that might involve being in a relationship, working with the one you're in already, reassessing what's going on with the kids, the family, maybe the job or the supervisors, the boss, the management team. Maybe that's the equivalent for you. And then also include in this little process, how am I covering this up? How have I learned to survive? How am I fooling myself here? This is just you and your journal. This is getting real with the mantra of parallel universes of self. I'm really not seeing things as they are. I'm seeing them as I am. Let that really sink in. This meditative work might go way beyond the length of this music, but it's a process worth pursuing. And just know that I'm doing it right along with you. Enjoy the music. It's from Fred. And enjoy the journey. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.